Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia and this is my TBR for what's left of August. I know this video is a little bit later than your traditional TBR video, but if you're familiar with my channel, you know that I don't do TBRs on a regular basis. But this month I just felt like it. I've just come off finishing Jane Austen July, which of course has a very specific theme. It's kind of in the name. And in August I'm craving some variety. So I've got 6 books here that are all from totally different genres, totally different types of books that I'm hoping to get through in August. I have been reading a lot more lately, which is great because I'm never going to finish that Goodreads reading challenge if I don't actually pick up a book every now and again. I'm quietly confident that I'll actually make it through these 6 books in the month of August. We'll see. Let's get right into it. Although a word of warning, I like to not be spoiled about the books that I read, so there usually isn't a whole lot that I know about a book before I read it. What even is the point of these videos, eh? Anyway, let's get right into it. The first book is actually one that I am technically currently reading, and it is Robin Hood by Henry Gilbert. This is a Robin Hood story collection that was published in 1912. There are kind of 2 popular Robin Hood versions that were both published around the same time. The other one by Howard Pyle, I believe, was a little bit earlier than this one, but this is the Henry Gilbert version. And I have a bookmark on page 43, but I've actually not picked this one up for about a month, so I might just start it again from the beginning. I don't know what I can say about Robin Hood that you don't already know. You know, Robin Hood, the king of thieves, stole from the rich, gave to the poor, ideals that maybe we should reconsider now in the year 2020. And I'm interested in reading this one because I haven't read a Robin Hood retelling yet. My only experience with the myth of Robin Hood has been the Disney version, and I haven't seen that for a good 20 years. So I'm ready to re-explore the myth around one of England's most favourite heroes. The second book that I'm planning to read, and this one has been calling out to me for a long time, is The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. Now the story behind this book being on my TBR is that the wonderful Cara from the booktube channel Wild Book Garden actually sent this to me in the post, and not just this, but the entire 4-part series, which is called The Books of Bayern. She sent it to me with a note saying that she thinks I will enjoy this one as I enjoyed reading Gail Carson Levine. How lovely is that? So I've got the whole series on my TBR. I know nothing about these books at all. I am assuming, based on the cover design, that this is a fantasy series. And honestly, after reading Jane Austen and Jane Austen related literature for a month, I'm very ready to dive headfirst into a new world, into something that is hopefully quite different from North Wales 2020, and that will just, you know, keep me there for a little while. This is a nice big book, nearly 400 pages, so I'm hoping that this is going to be a nice, slow-paced, beautifully ornamented fantasy world for me to dive into. Next up, I have picked up a book for the History Challenge Readathon, which is hosted by Jenny from Bookish Shenanigans. I will link both Jenny's channel and Cara's channel in the description box, of course. So Jenny has created this readathon, which is all about historical non-fiction. Now, I've just said that I've just come off a readathon. I'm not ready to dive headfirst into another one, but I'm happy to put my toes in the water, so to speak. One of the prompts for the History Challenge Readathon is to read a memoir or autobiography, and I happen to have the second part of Maya Angelou's autobiographical series on my TBR, and this is called Gathered Together in My Name. Now, I read the first part of this 6-part series, which is called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, I think 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, And I've had this one sitting on my TBR for the moment that I'm ready to dive into another autobiography. Autobiography and memoir are a genre that I struggle with. I don't often find autobiographies and memoirs engaging enough, but the first Maya Angelou one was one that held my attention throughout. It doesn't seem fair to call it a memoir because, for me at least, that word has connotations of sort of self-important people who think they hold the key to success and want to tell the world about what makes them such a genius. But Maya Angelou has had the most fascinating life, and her writing about it is poetry, and it is beautiful, and it is worth reading just for itself. It doesn't even matter that you go away from the book having learned the lessons that hundreds of memoir authors wish you learned from their lives. So I'm really excited to get into this. The first part, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, takes us through her early childhood, later childhood, and the very first years of her adulthood. So I expect that this one is going to pick up from there, and let's see where that takes us. I have absolutely no doubt that I'm going to be reading all 6 parts eventually. For my next read, we are going to an early 20th century British classic, and that is Brighton Rock by Greene. This was published in 1938, and all I know about it is that it deals with criminality. I'm not sure if it's a mystery or a thriller or just a kind of gritty drama, but it is set in Brighton, I presume. That's all I know about the book. It's been recommended to me many times, including from my friend and guest Spinster Robin, who isn't known to be a lover of the classics, but she said that she remembers liking this book, and so she thinks I will as well. And generally speaking, I tend to enjoy early 20th century classics a lot. The first decades of the 20th century have produced some amazing literature that I get on with really well. For my 5th read this month, we are going to my hometown. Now, I was hoping that I could celebrate my 29th birthday, which is coming up in just a few days, in my hometown with my family. That is not happening, but I am hoping that I will be back where I belong very, very soon. And until then, I'm hoping that this book will give me just the right amount of feeling of groundedness and of home. Now, this is a very unique novel. It's called Das Ratzennest, and it's by Hermann Alexander Neugart. Das Ratzennest means the rat's nest in English, as I'm sure you could have guessed just from the sound of the word. And this is one of the earliest novels set in that town. This was published, I think, in 1950. It's incredibly rare to find it nowadays. I've been meaning to read this book pretty much since I heard about it, probably when I was 12 or 13. I was hoping that one day I'll find a copy of this. So I finally managed to get hold of this one in March of this year. I was in my hometown, I was visiting my parents. That was before we were all stuck at home, essentially. And I happened to be book shopping with another booktuber, Pauline from the Dancing Lawn, also linked in the description box. And we were browsing through my local antiquarian bookshop. I saw this on the wall next to the till, and that's why you know that it's going to be expensive. So I asked the owner, who, by the way, probably still knows me from when I was a kid browsing his shop, and he opened up the book and said, "This is 34 euros. Now, I've never spent this much money in my life for a book, but like I said, I know the guy. I managed to haggle him down to 25 euros and a free postcard, which is still more than I'd like to spend for a single book. But like I said, I've been waiting for this to show up in my life for over a decade, so I got it. And now I finally get to read it. I haven't even said what this book is about. So this is a historical novel written in the 1950s, but set in the middle of the 30-Year War. And finally, Another book that has been recommended to me many times and that I have seen spoken about so much. And then, luckily, I got this as, I believe, a Christmas present from my mother-in-law, and it is Cersei by Madeline Miller. I feel like I don't really have to say too much about this. This is a Greek mythology retelling, and everyone, or almost everyone, I feel like there's a few people who really, really dislike this book, but the majority of people that I've heard talked about it in glowing terms. And I think similar to the Shannon Hale book, I just feel the need to escape into a different world right now, and this might well provide the escapism that I'm craving right now. So this is a retelling of the Greek myth of the witch Circe. I also know very little about Greek mythology, by the way, so I'm hoping that I'm not going to be lost in this one. Anyway, that was it for my August TBR. If you are familiar with any of the books that I'm planning to read, then let me know how you got on with them. If I manage to read all 6 of them, I might even do a wrap-up at the end of the month. We'll see about that. Thank you for watching. Bye!